So I've been playing both Warframe and Genshin Impact for a long time. Like a very, very long time. I know that's one day off launch day, don't remind me. I've been on and off over the years in both games, but I can very easily say that they're two of my favorite games that I've ever played. So when I heard about this gacha that just took away all the gacha mechanics, then found out it's inspired by Warframe, yeah, I was interested. So the question is Duet Night Abyss any good? After all, Warframe and Genshin are both old. Warframe over 10 years, Genshin pretty much the pioneer of open world RPG style gachas. They both have had an incredible amount of time to iterate upon themselves in terms of storytelling, performance, gameplay, quality of life. Like, despite everything that hardcore players could possibly complain about, I think it's undeniable that both these games, at their core, just feel really good to play. So, what business does China have barging into both these camps at the same time? We're gonna find out. Before I get into anything, if there's anything specific that you guys are curious about, there's going to be timestamps both on the video timeline as well as in the description, so you guys can skip to wherever or whatever you want to hear about. I'm also going to tell you right off the bat that this video is going to have spoilers, at least for the very beginning of the game. I'll try and keep them minimal, but it's kind of impossible to avoid because DNA just throws you directly into the story as soon as you click past the login screen. Games just like doing that nowadays. Sometimes you don't even get a chance to change settings. I get it, it's immersive, but it might even be more immersive if you let me change my voiceover to the language I want, or my mouse sensitivity, or keybinds before I have to fight things. Anyways, that's just a thought. But that does lead me to the options menu, which I'll talk about now, to see what the game lets us change in the menu, as well as after we get to the opening cutscene to see what else it unlocks. Right off the bat, we have graphics options. On the off chance the game launches in the wrong resolution, or if someone wants to lower the settings now, then the game does let you do that. There are presets for people that don't want to waste too much time and just want to get into the game, but for the people that want to fine-tune their own settings, then all the individual options are down below. I'll go through a couple I think are the most important. The thing that caught my eye first is that DNA actually allows you to uncap the frame rate. I think it's really nice they let you do this in-game rather than requiring some sort of third-party mod or launcher like in Genshin. There's also the teammate effects dropdown, which lets you change the opacity of the sword swipes and ability VFX that comes off your co-op partners or summon companions in solo missions, which can become quite useful further into the endgame when abilities and such become much more visually demanding. Now, performance-wise. For reference, my machine is pretty old. I'm still running a 1080 and an 8700K. These settings that you're seeing on screen are the actual video settings I use when I play the game myself, and I'm averaging about 100 FPS, give or take. If there's enemies around and I'm actively fighting, it'll dip into the 90s, but so far, at least in the low-level commissions that I've unlocked, I haven't really found myself struggling too much with performance, although I've heard very different things with phones though, so this statement probably doesn't hold any weight for mobile players. All in all, DNA isn't the optimization miracle that Genshin and Warframe both just happen to be. It could be a whole lot better, but it could also be a whole lot worse. So I'd say for being so close to the launch date, yeah, it's doing alright, but I don't think anyone would complain about some more optimization being done. Next tab over, there's a very simple set of audio sliders, and the option to disable the game muting itself when tapped out. This music is some of the best I've heard in gaming lately. I'd even say on par with Hoyo and Wuthering Waves, etc. It is a tad bit loud compared to the voice acting, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to turn it down a few ticks. The very last tab is just a couple of super basic privacy settings. They're both basically asking, would you like DNA to feel like an MMO? Neither of these really matter, especially because you can't actually see anyone outside the city anyways, so they're just personal preference. So right now we don't have any mouse settings, we don't have keybinds, we don't have voiceover. All that stuff has to be changed after the intro cutscene. It's a bit unfortunate, but at least it's only a one-time thing. As soon as you click past this intro screen, you'll be thrown straight into that cutscene. There is a very cold open for not even 20 seconds with what looks to be a major antagonist, and right after that, the game has you choose whether you'd like the male MC on the bottom left or the female MC on the top right. Just like other open world gachas, it doesn't seem like this can be changed, so make sure you pick the one you really want before hitting continue. After one more short cinematic, the game finally turns over controls to you, and I presume this is the first time that the keybinds and mouse settings are actually changeable. I decided to let this play out just for immersion's sake, and after a few more cutscenes, the game sends you into a flashback where it'll start teaching you the rest of the controls, and by this point the entire settings menu is free for you to play around with. You have almost complete free reign over your keybinds, barring just 4 that the game locks down. If we go over to mouse input, unfortunately it's not very granular, although I guess I can't complain too much given the genre of the game. Now of course all the settings here will be personal preference, but again I'll point out a couple things that stand out to me. One thing in particular for mouse and keyboard players, because I think it might be a bit awkward, and controller and mobile players will probably want it on, the aim assist setting is enabled for mouse input by default, and it's not just rotational aim assist. It will literally take your crosshair and stick it to a target when you're firing your weapon. I personally have this setting off since I like having my own freedom to aim at whatever I would like, but I'll just throw that info out there in case anyone was wondering what it did. Something that might be less obvious, the enable movement for plunging attack toggle essentially just changes the plunge behavior between Genshin and Warframe. For the people that haven't played either, having the option off will force the character to always plunge straight downwards perpendicular to the floor. Turning it on will allow the player to plunge towards the direction of the camera. There's also a dedicated tab for anything to do with language, and this is where you can finally install the voiceover packs to change the VO from English to Chinese, Japanese, or Korean. And if you're hurting on space, at least you delete them from here if you have more than one downloaded. The very last thing to talk about in the settings is the fact that the miscellaneous tab actually has had a bunch of stuff added to it. Most of it doesn't really affect gameplay, but the very first line, immersive mode, is just a fancy way of labeling the HUD toggle, on or off. It leaves alone some button prompts and UI elements crucial to your character's kit. The only other line on the screen that actually affects gameplay is the reset character button, which behaves kind of like the unstuck command from Warframe. On the off chance you find yourself stuck in some weird map geometry, clicking the unstuck button will take you back to somewhere safe. Just a quick tip, this button will save you a few seconds if you click it when spawned at the top of the massive elevator. Now, as this video is from the perspective of a gamer that has spent a lot of time in both of this game's predecessors, I will be making a lot of comparisons between Duet Night Abyss and Warframe and Genshin. With that said, I'll also do my best to cover things in a way that can be understood even if you've never played or seen either of those two games before. Even still, if there's things that I didn't go over or things that you just don't understand, please do leave comments and I'll do my best to give answers if I have them. The first thing the game does is teach you the basic controls, how to walk, jump, slide. Then it introduces you to one of the main movement mechanics of the game, the Helix Leap. Warframe players will be very familiar with this concept because it's just bullet jumping with a different name. Oh, I get it. I understand. Crouching into a jump will send you straight towards where you're looking, just like in Warframe. Directional inputs don't affect which direction you fly when leaping, but one nice quality of life feature DNA has is actually a dedicated keybind for helix leaping that Warframe doesn't have for a bullet jump. Wall jumping, though, seems to be a bit of a downgrade. No, well, hold on a second. Because of how long it's taken me to make this video, some of the things I talked about in this next section have actually changed for the better. So, yeah, thank you, Pan Studios. Well, because of that, I'm going to talk about how it is right now. Wall jumping is also in this game, and as a version 1.1 has been vastly improved from how it behaved when the game first came out. A month ago, to climb a wall, you had to spam the spacebar to wall hop all the way up. Now, it more so mimics Warframe in the sense that pressing and holding the jump key after initially jumping against a wall will bring you all the way up to the top, provided that the wall is flat. Climbing still doesn't behave very well when trying to ascend the underside of a cliff face, and because there's no aim down sights mechanic, yeah, you heard that right, I'll talk more about that later, there's no way to reset your helix leap, nor is there any way to anchor yourself to the surface of a wall or a cliff so you can shoot enemies or just pause your climbing progress. Now, there's not very many places inside actual missions that have this kind of issue. It's pretty much isolated just to the open world, but I think it'd be nice to see further improvements to the movement system, whether or not it'd be related to wall hopping. After you climb the wall, the game will introduce you to a couple more mechanics. Avian towers are DNA's version of a teleport waypoint, with the one difference being that these towers don't need to be interacted with to activate them. Walking near them will unlock them for use anytime you open the world map, which is the second thing that gets unlocked here. Once you click past alt prompts, it'll give you a keybind to highlight the waypoint marker, which is where you'll pick up your first weapon, and where you'll get a feel of the game's combat for the first time. Instead of fighting with the main character, the game actually gives you control over Berenica, the woman that's been running alongside you throughout the introduction. The first combat sequence only allows you to use the melee weapon, and it teaches you how to attack and dodge, which should be fairly straightforward to anyone that's played an action RPG. After slaying 10 of the filthoids, the objective will change to have you head over to the docks in order to pick up your first gun. You can choose from one of two options, the Osteobreaker, an assault rifle, or the Scream Shot, a shotgun. Something to note, it is true that both these guns are able to be obtained completely for free in regular gameplay. However, the ability to do so is unlocked very, very late into the progression of your account. The Osteobreaker at trial rank 48 and the Screen Shot quite a bit later at rank 59. I'll talk more about trial ranks in a bit. For now, you'll only be able to choose one and keep one of them. Now, to finally talk about the gunplay. It'll become evident very quickly what I talked about earlier about this game not having an aim down sights mechanic. After the short cutscene that plays after you decide on what weapon to bring, the game will return you to combat and inform you of the one single keybind that you can use to utilize your firearm. Yeah, you heard that right. There's only one button to operate the gun. When you press the ranged attack button, which is bound to right mouse by default, your character will immediately start shooting the gun while bringing the gun up to their shoulder, and their screen will zoom in to emulate the effect of aiming down sights. As soon as you let go of the button, your character will stop shooting and put the weapon down after about a second. There's no way to maintain the gun up state without actually firing the weapon. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of the decision to design the gunplay around this idea. I get it, it's a mobile game. However, both the games that this one's taken so much inspiration from also have the ability to ready a ranged weapon without firing, and they have mobile versions. Is it that big of a deal? Probably not. Is it still strange why they've done it like this? I think so. Now, with all that said, with a couple key rebindings, I can look past it. Placing the ranged attack key on the left mouse button alleviates pretty much all of the really weird exotic feel the way DNA does shooting. The feeling of the weapons themselves also helps with that. It's not like we're playing Doom, Eternal, or Killing Floor with super responsive enemy reactions to gunshots or melee slashes, but the sheer enemy density in certain scenarios and the flashy particle effects and hit markers, as well as the sound design, albeit it's a bit cheesy, I think it does help keep the little dopamine dispenser in my brain running. It's a small price to pay to be able to enjoy the rest of the game. After fighting out the town, there's only a few more things the game tries to teach you before exiting what's essentially the tutorial city. There's a small hacking section to open a door that Warframe players will be very familiar with more variations later on in the game. Some more interactables and chests, and some secret lore collectibles to let you learn more about your character's history and who Berenica is to you. Now, I'm not going to go deeper into those things just in case you all want to learn about the lore yourself. The next section that introduces new mechanics to you is where the character skills come in. The combat skill and ultimate skills are character-based abilities that spend a shared resource pool called Sanity to cast. DNA seems to have taken most of the mechanical inspiration here from Warframe rather than Genshin, as these abilities have virtually no cooldown. The only limiting factor behind whether or not you can cast an ability, including your ult, is whether or not you have enough sanity to do so. The game makes that abundantly clear by boosting your sanity regen for this section to let you mow through enemies with the combat skill. The ultimate's unlocked a little bit later, but the moment that happens comes with some story spoilers, and I promised I'd avoid them the best I can, so I won't be showing it. But the concept is the same: no cooldown and castable anytime you have the required sanity. Following the combat encounters that come alongside the ability unlocks, the game will drop you outside the city and have you meet a couple characters, with which you'll start the process of unlocking the various game systems that you'll be interacting with regularly in order to progress your account. I'll do my best to at least mention anything important at least once, however, please understand that there's no way I can cover absolutely everything in a single video without it lasting a day and a half. If there's anything I don't go over or that you'd like me to elaborate on, again, please leave a comment down below and I'll read through as many as I can and give answers when possible. I'm going to break up these topics into categories to make it easier to find certain things that you might want to learn about and to organize this video just a little bit. Those being the core systems of the game that sit adjacent to gameplay, the various menus and interfaces to be able to access certain systems, endgame modes, and then some miscellaneous concepts that don't really fit anywhere else. And we'll start with the latter, since they'll probably be the quickest to go over. Everyone that's gotten to the city has no doubt been completing main quests in order to reach this point. Those are pretty self-explanatory, the quests that progress the primary storyline of DNA. The game doesn't actually allow you to access the actual quest screen until getting to the actual city, but when you do, then you'll actually unlock a few extra types of quests. Side quests, being some regular missions completable for rewards and lore. Special side quests, the latter marked by a more prominent blue indicator rather than a white one. Completing those will unlock other core game systems. And then there's dynamic quests, marked by an indigo indicator, which are quests that appear at random in the world that can provide rewards and points towards the player's impressions, which brings me to that very topic. Impressions are a group of 5 stats: benefit, morality, wisdom, empathy, and chaos, that can affect and are affected by various dialogue paths and choices the player can make in certain situations. Selecting certain responses will give NPCs differing impressions of you, whether you come off as more empathetic if you're an overall good person, or if you take a bit of a crazier path, giving less regard to the person or people you're talking to. Having high enough values in certain impressions can sometimes unlock more dialogue paths that would otherwise be unavailable. Certain paths can give you options that lead to more loot or reveal some lore. A lot of these things are possible with low impressions as well. However, because of the dice roll stat check system, having high scores definitely helps get past these checks without needing to try them over and over again, which would cost dice, those of which can be obtained through questing or crafting, the latter of which we'll talk about later. The events display will be unlocked around the same time as the quest display. This page is basically what the game shows you any activity or otherwise that it thinks might be of interest to you, whether that actually be limited time events, or the method to obtain permanent rewards, or even showing you the availability and reward track of a couple endgame activities. The last bit to skim over before getting to the main portion of the game, the mailbox also gets unlocked alongside the events and quests. This is where you can claim any bonuses that might come with pre-registering, Twitch drops or maintenance or compensations for game bugs or anything else that involves you receiving items outside the regular game. Now, to finally get into things that actually affect the game. Weapons and characters and whatnot, and how to go about equipping them and making them stronger. Very early on, you'll be introduced to the Armory screen, and the game kind of handholds you through unlocking a new character, equipping them as the on-field, and changing out and upgrading weapons. These early tutorials can be a little bit forgettable, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that just click past these ASAP to get to the gameplay, so I'll just go over everything anyways. Characters are unlocked in this menu using a currency called Thoughts, which I'll go over how to get a little later on. 30 of these thoughts for any specific character combine into that character, and any extra thoughts will go towards unlocking something called introns, which are essentially constellations for the Genshin players. Each intron unlocks a different strength for the character, some being simple stat buffs, extra trigger conditions, etc. The skills and passives themselves, as well as the character as a whole, are able to be viewed and upgraded on this screen using materials acquired through gameplay. More importantly, all characters can also have their cosmetics customized under the last tab. You can give them headgear, facewear, change their back gear, footstep trails, apparently even fast travel effects, although none seem to exist right now. Your active character can then be equipped with both a ranged weapon and a melee weapon. There are different weapon classes in the game, like assault rifles, shotguns, polearms, swords, but any character can equip any of them. However, each character does have their own preferred weapon type, which is displayed on their attribute info, and equipping that preferred type will give them a free attack increase. Though, there are some weapon passives that are just good enough to warrant equipping non-preferred types on certain characters. Just a note, on the very top of the attribute info is also a row with icons that label each character's role: damage dealer, healer, support, and whatever. Clicking the ellipses to the right will show descriptions for all the icons that exist, but the icons that apply to the current character will appear at the very top so you can read them more easily. Now, back to the arsenal. All the aforementioned equipment and characters themselves are able to receive upgrades both in terms of level and ascensions, and customizable modules called demon wedges. Once again, Warframe players are going to have a bit of deja vu. It's just modding, and Genshin players might think of these as artifacts, although only in the sense that they're the source of the strength of the thing that you're equipping them on. Each item that can have demon wedges slotted into it has a certain capacity, known in this game as tolerance. Each demon wedge will consume a certain amount of that tolerance when slotted in. There's a few limitations that determine what demon wedges can be put onto certain types of equipment. The bottom of their descriptions is a list of items which that particular wedge works with. Every one of those items has a hard limit of 8 demon wedges plus a 9th wedge for characters that raises the tolerance cap rather than consumes it. Wedges are equipable as long as there's enough tolerance to accommodate it, along with a free slot to put it in. The higher power and the more effects a demon wedge has, the more tolerance it'll take up. Just like Warframe, there's a way to reduce the tolerance cost by aligning the track of the slot with the track of the demon wedge itself using track shift modules. Unlike Forma, track shift modules are separated by weapons versus characters, more like working reactors and catalysts. Acquiring these demon wedges is very straightforward. Since wedges themselves aren't random, and this is why they're not exactly like artifacts, having a demon wedge of a specific name will guarantee that you have the exact same copy of it that everyone else does. Everything about them is shown inside of a menu called the Demon Wedge Casket. There's 3 tabs in this menu, the first of which is essentially an achievement track for collecting certain kinds, but the next 2 tabs are, in my opinion, one of the strongest quality of life and new player experience aspects that this, or any game has that I've come across. The second tab is a list of every single demon wedge in the entire game, categorized into what items they're actually able to be equipped on. Clicking on one of them will direct you to the exact mission that gives you a chance of dropping it. Never will there be a question of, what mission do I need to do to get this mod? If you find it in the list, it'll just straight up tell you. Not only that, the third tab is a build guide for beginners that shows a set of demon wedges that works for every single character and weapon that you own. And there are buttons for each build that do the same thing. They just take you straight to the mission that you need to do to get them. Now, what it doesn't do, it doesn't just give everyone the absolute best build in the game for every single thing. It doesn't update the strength of the build when missions are unlocked. It just provides a kind of jumping off point to give new players an idea of what stats go well in certain characters and equipment so that you're able to learn and make your own builds later on. Just to give some perspective on how rare this type of new player hospitality is, Genshin only started displaying recommended artifact sets and stats less than a year ago. Warframe doesn't have anything like this at all. Only with the very latest mainline patch that was released in October of 2025, which as of recording this video is last month, DE finally released a quest that goes over the basics of modding. And even with that in place, there's no resource in the game that gives any advice on what stats or mods are good on various pieces of equipment. All of the responsibility of learning how to build is placed on the player, which some people probably enjoy, although I would definitely say the lack of guidance for the player in the right direction in terms of building has driven a non-zero amount of people away from the game. The closest thing I've seen to this is Wuthering Waves' guide depot, which is accessible from the terminal. However, that's pretty much all community driven, rather than the devs trying to help you out. For the sake of DNA, there hasn't really been anything that stood out to me as groundbreaking or game-changing, but this system of pushing you towards what's good and sending you directly to where to get it really impresses me. Alright, we're gonna move on from demon wedges, I promise. There's more to talk about and this video is already almost 20 minutes long. Geniemon. From the perspective of a Warframe and Genshin player, this is actually the freshest and most unfamiliar I've been to any of the systems so far that I've interacted with. To get out of the way, they're not a parallel to companions from Warframe, which can sometimes eclipse the strength of entire Warframes by themselves. They're also not just cute little cosmetics like the stuff in Genshin that just follow you around. They're the closest to a primary echo from Wuthering Waves, where they provide an active ability and a passive that has the added bonus of being incredibly cute. You can find Geniemon just floating around anywhere in the world, or sometimes they appear at the end of certain non-endless missions, and you can feed them treats to have a chance at taming them. There's two general categories of them, active and inactive. You can equip any active ones at any given time and level them just like characters or weapons, although it seems like the only thing that actually does is get you to the point where you can ascend them, which is what actually gives you a boost to the stats. Doing that is a lot harder than weapons or characters as well, given that you either need 5 copies of them to reach max ascension, or for the Geniemon that are a bit harder to obtain like the ones from the battle pass, there's Yum Yum milk that comes from immersive theater, though as the time of recording you can only buy 1 Yum Yum milk every theater cycle, which means that getting Geniemon to max strength is going to take a while if you decide to farm them, or even longer if you don't. Given the difficulty of leveling them and ascending them, you'd expect them to be quite valuable in terms of what they can do for you, and honestly, I think that's the case for some of them, not all of them. Unlike the regular character skill and ult, the Geniemon active doesn't use Sanity, it runs on its own cooldown timer, and the possible actives range from a simple burst of damage, followed by buffs, to healing the character, to restoring sanity, and there's even one Geniemon that has been very popular among content creators, called Bro Boxy, and this one marks chests and other Geniemons in a 100-meter radius around you. Plus, it is a passive of increasing your pickup range and XP gain and loot drop rate. And the last little bonus about them is that they've got a system called traits, which are smaller, more generic passives that can be transferred to active Geniemon by consuming inactive ones that have the trait on them. These can range from simple attack boosts to auto-hacking mechanisms and even additional chances to res if you happen to go down in a mission. The last thing about them is that you can rename them. Now, if you've ever played any kind of RPG in the past decade and a half, you'll be familiar with a crafting system, or a forge or a blacksmith, and based on the name, I think it's fairly self-explanatory who the Lunosmith is. You meet her right after unlocking the quest display and mail and events and whatever, and from then on, the forge is actually accessible from anywhere in the game outside of actual missions by opening the menu. This is where weapons and their materials get crafted, where certain consumables are crafted, like the drop boost that can be used at the start of missions, or ammo restores, the place to upgrade the later game demon wedges that have blueprints acquirable from bounty commissions, and etc. All the different categories of items can be filtered by the tabs at the top of the screen. Crafting times can take some real-life hours, and just like Warframe, you can pay an in-game currency to speed it up. For this game, they're called hammers, toy hammers, and those can be purchased from the store with either lucent prisms or regular foxine. Crafting things, though, is just a lot faster than, say, Warframe, but a lot slower than Genshin after having updated the crafting times way back when. 3 hours for weapons feels extremely generous after getting used to the 12 to 24 hour craft times in Warframe. Not only that, there's some amazing quality of life for items that you technically have ingredients for, but they're not quite at the processing level they need to be at in order to craft these higher tier recipes. The Forging Procedures button will display the entire chain of production for anything that isn't able to be crafted immediately with the ingredients you have. And from there, you can click on any of the ingredients in the chain, and you can craft them directly from this screen if you have those ingredients that you need. And if not, you can go farther down the chain. And just like everything else, there's always the button to direct you to exactly the mission you need to farm if you really don't have any of the required ingredients anywhere in the production line. This display is actually accessible at any time by clicking the blueprints button on the bottom left of the screen, but unfortunately it doesn't look like you can actually start crafting any components from here. So all in all, the smithing system in this game is probably one of the smoothest I've seen in any RPG I can remember. It's pretty straightforward in telling you what ingredients you need for a certain recipe, and it lets you very easily craft every component you need in order to complete the requirements. The only other thing I can think of that'd be nice to have is a search bar. The tactical backpack is the gear wheel for the Warframe players. In DNA, it's what lets you activate character sigils to spawn or despawn companions in the open world or in commissions. You can use ammo restores, health restores, or sanity restores, or start emotes. And so far, that seems to be it. I did some googling, but I can't seem to find anything else that can be equipped here. I can only assume that there's going to be more things in the future, but for now, that's literally all it's used for. Important note, to actually be able to equip a character sigil onto the wheel to summon them, they have to be assigned a weapon. Alright, for anyone that's actually sat through this entire video so far, I applaud and I greatly appreciate your patience. But for anyone else, I completely understand skipping to this section, because this is where we finally start to talk about how to play the game. Anyways, let's start with the quick things first. The first rewards menu that you unlock is the beginner's guide. This consists of the main quest line plus the special side quests that I've already talked about, along with some stuff that would be normal to do just to progress your account. Leveling characters, leveling weapons, opening chests, doing various mission types, and defeating Geniemon. The multiple pages of this guide should just complete itself as you play the game normally, but if you've never played a game like this before that involves leveling and building characters, and you really have no idea where to start learning, then 1, that's probably why you're watching this video, and 2, if you take away nothing else from what you watched today, then just know that completing some of the beginner's guide is not a bad idea to find out what to do to get stronger. Plus, it just gives you free materials and a couple free weapons. The very next tab over is Memos, which is actually unlocked a little later after a couple more main quests. This is a fancy word for dailies. The way it works is every day you get 5 40-point milestones to fill, and each item under the Memos list gives a certain number of points. Each milestone and the ones prior can be claimed as soon as you reach the point requirement, and reaching 200 every day will give you the max amount of rewards for that day. And the things you earn here are coins, level up materials for Geniemon and Demon Wedges, reward boosters for missions, and most importantly, a whole bunch of tile XP and the secret letter clues, which is a big thing I'll talk about a little bit later. Both of these sub-tabs fall under the big day planner tab, and as the name suggests, is the stuff that the game nudges you towards if you don't know what to do when you log on. The next tab is the Commissions tab. This is where we get into the bread and butter of the game. If you come from Warframe, a quick explanation is that this is just a less aesthetic version of the star chart. For everyone else, this is where you find the missions to do to farm whatever material it is that you're looking for. Every material type in the game is listed and displayed as you scroll across this screen. And the funny part is, this might actually be one of the lesser used menus in this game, because clicking on any of these materials in any inventory or crafting menu will give you a button that leads you straight towards the mission you need to complete to acquire it, which actually bypasses this entire screen. The final sub-tab under Commissions is Bounty Commissions, which kind of falls under the same category of the Nocturnal Echoes tab. I guess the only reason they're separate is because you unlock both at different times, with Nocturnal Echoes being unlocked literally all the way from the start to the end of the currently available main questline. Both of those things are weeklies, missions that you can complete for a limited number of looted clears per week. As of the time of recording, it seems that there's only one activity under Bounty Commissions, and it's Chase, a game mode that has you running through a single mission doing multiple types of objectives for a high-level Demon Wedge blueprint at the end. This is only lootable 3 times a week, so it's definitely something you don't want to forget doing before a weekly reset. Same thing goes for Nocturnal Echoes as well. This is a tab of bosses, with 5 being unlocked if you've completed the entire main quest chain as of the first update. Each boss has different level tiers within the challenge itself. Each tier drops different sets of secret letters that it'll show as you click through the levels. Each time you clear a tier for the first time, it provides 1 set of the drops as first clear rewards, then unlocks the next tier for you to complete. This entire set of bosses is limited to 5 looted clears per week, excluding first clear rewards. This means you can clear every single level tier for every single boss at least 1 time before it starts eating your looted clears. However, once you loot 1 boss 5 times, none of the other ones will drop loot until the next weekly reset. Or you could do 1 boss 3 times at 1 tier, once at another tier, and then a second boss once if you want to spread them out. The middle 2 sub-tabs back under Commissions cover some of the most important gameplay aspects in Duet Night Abyss, the Noctoyager manual, plus the Covert Commissions. The Noctoyager manual is the place to find specialized demon wedges for characters you're building. These wedges go beyond the general wedges that the game suggests for each character in the Demon Wedge Casket in terms of specificity and strength. They're separated by level and trial rank tiers that unlock as you progress through said trial rank, with stronger wedges dropping at the higher levels and each mission dropping a different set of wedges displayed in each row, with every mission under the level tier dropping any wedge under the pool shown at the bottom of the screen. The reward boosters that can be activated at the start of every commission do work on the demon wedges, so it's possible to get upwards of 20 wedges or more in a single mission. It seems like so far there's 2 different modes, defense and expulsion, and each level tier only covers one of either type. So for example, level 30s are all defense, 40s are all expulsion, 50s defense, 55s expulsion, so on and so forth. Now, at long last, we finally get to the most interesting part of this entire video, the Covert Commissions, aka the missions directly responsible for acquiring new characters and weapons and high-tier demon wedges, and extra copies of all the above as well. Covert Commissions pretty much directly lifts the concepts of void fissures from Warframe and just sticks it in DNA with a different name. This tab displays all the rotating missions that are available under each different type of loot at any given time. Starting a mission will prompt the player to equip an item called a secret letter, the equivalent to relics from Warframe. Each letter has a reward pool of 6 items, with half of those being common, 2 being uncommon, and the most desirable being the rarest at about 10% chance of getting it to drop. Completing the mission will show a selection of those items for you to pick from. And yes, the Warframe players heard me correctly. Unlike Warframe, where each relic provides 1 reward with multiple teammates adding to the pool at the end of the mission, in DNA, each player only receives rewards from their own letter, but you receive a pool of 3 items from that one letter rather than just a single item. This is more forgiving than Warframe, although it does massively reduce the incentive to complete Covert Commissions in co-op. In endless missions, you can pick another letter every single reward rotation and stay in the mission while fighting harder enemies every rotation, and for all the finite missions, you can restart the commission with another secret letter straight from the mission summary without having to go all the way back to the menu. The reward structure leading to loot is also quite simple, with character secret letters having character thoughts in the reward pool twice, once as the rare reward with 10 thoughts and once as one of the uncommons at 2 thoughts. I did already mention earlier in the video, but for anyone that skipped to this part, each new or intron of character requires 30 thoughts to unlock, so it would take a minimum of 3 Covert Commissions to acquire 1 copy of a character. Weapons and demon wedges are arguably easier, since the rare reward for those is just a blueprint for that item, meaning with enough luck, weapons and wedges are acquirable just after a single Covert Commission run. The Lunosmith is where both of those blueprints are crafted, with demon wedges requiring 5 copies of the purple rarity demon wedge to upgrade into the gold rarity one, and the weapons requiring a certain number of materials from across the game, some of them being directly acquirable from the secret letters when you don't get the rare reward of the blueprint. Other than the rare rewards, secret letters also drop leveling materials for characters' own weapons, as well as extra secret letter clues and materials to craft track shift modules for weapons or characters, depending on the secret letter. Now, after all this mention of secret letters, it's probably worth noting where to get them from, and the answer to that is probably the most important menu that doesn't actually involve gameplay. The shop is where all of the most important economy happens. There's places to spend all kinds of in-game or premium currency, but the thing we're trying to find is where to get these secret letters that we've been talking about, and that's this middle tab right here, Covert Commissions. Just like the rest of the game, it's super straightforward when you look at it. Every character and weapon that's unlocked at your trial rank, that's excluding the endgame rotation, is available here. One single secret letter of any type costs 10 secret letter clues. These clues drop from literally anywhere. You probably noticed them in pretty much every single reward source in the game. Every single defeated enemy also has a chance of dropping them, so they're just going to appear in your inventory if you play this game enough. The drop rate isn't magnificent though, so the main story missions and side quests, as well as completing daily planner activities and all the collections, is probably still the most reliable method of getting more in the short term. Apart from that, the store also contains the home page leading you to the gacha banners for cosmetics and the monthly pass, along with some other quote-unquote discounts. Some other tabs where you can just spend currency you earn as a byproduct of gacha. There's the place where you can purchase the premium currency, or the tab where you can buy bundles of materials just for real money. The items tab is where you can spend the regular fox scene that the monthly pass actually gives you. Then there's the final tab called Bustling Marketplace, which is where you find the shops that sell things for impression point thresholds, or exploration, or fishing, or even some endgame currency. And even after yapping for such a long time, that still isn't everything to cover about Duet Night Abyss. I've mentioned the term endgame a couple times, but I haven't even touched on how Mystic Maze or Immersive Theater work, and I'm not going to do that right now, because this video is long enough. With everything said, I know I've said a lot of good things about DNA over the past who knows how long, but by no means do I think the game is perfect. There were maybe 1 or 2 complaints about certain systems that I brought up, but for anyone that thinks I'm just talking this game up for sponsorship, which, hey, I wouldn't mind, just know that I'll have another video coming out in hopefully the next few weeks diving deeper into some of the things that I'm not quite happy about and maybe some ways to make them better. Plus, as I mentioned, a 3rd video about the 2 endgame activities that exist right now after I've had a couple cycles to experience it and the reward system it comes with. Alright, a note from the editor. The production of this video took quite a bit longer than I had planned for, so by the time this video goes up, the first major update, the Wind Awakening Part 1, will probably be out. If there's any changes to anything that I've talked about in this video, expect an update on those as well. For anyone that's made it this far in the video, listen, you guys are awesome. Thank you for sticking around. If you can't tell, I'm kind of new at this making videos thing, which is why this one took so freaking long. I'm going to try to get some more content out in this year, hopefully faster, including those couple DNA videos that I mentioned before. Some of the stuff that I want to make also won't be gacha related, so just brace yourself for that. If you're only here for gacha, I apologize, but Hytale just came out after a decade of development hell, and I've been really excited about that. And I want to try to learn some of the creative tools to make something cool, but I mean, no promises. Some of the modding stuff just looks really awesome to me, so yeah, that's about it. But before I go, let me know in the comments how your New Year resolutions are going. Mine was to streamline my editing process and get on like a decent upload schedule this year, but like, given the fact that it's already the end of January. But yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you think I deserved it, you can leave a like and subscribe, but for now, I'll see you guys next time.